Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast. I'm Kirt Maz.
And I'm Maz Maddox.
How the heck are ya?
I'm good. I would say a good medium well.
Okay.
Work's been a little nuts. just one of those, not all bad. Things are doing okay. Just craziness and people being stressed out and shit like that. But otherwise, it's fine. I'm off next week, which is exciting. I took a week off just to try to power through some writing and decompress a little bit. And
they let you do that at this point? You're allowed to take this much time off already?
Yeah.
Wow.
So where I work, it has unlimited time off. So you can take as much as you want, whenever you want, and unless it's the holiday season, and then they're a little bit more strict about it. But that's kind of been a little bit of a detriment because so many people take off so much for long stretches of time.
Okay. I was going to ask if that was perhaps overused, but
yeah,
interesting.
It is. 100%. There's definitely been times where I've reached out to a team and everyone's gone. And I'm like, okay, well, when does so-and-so get back? They're like, oh, in 2 weeks. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, so this project it's happening. So yeah, it's wild. So me taking a week off, I thought was crazy, but that's nothing. Leadership is usually gone.
You haven't been there a year yet.
No.
To have that much. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's
so
wild. And we're talking paid time off.
Oh, yeah. Paid time off. I will say as much as this company can really be a lot, the benefits are pretty great. Somebody has 4 months off for paternity leave or something. Paternity, not even maternity. And I'm like, that's awesome. But also you have somebody covering your desk, right? Holy shit. So it's just,
well, I think, that has to be the trade-off. Is you can have these policies that are really generous to employees when they need them.
Yeah.
But the trade-off is that they're still getting their job done. Or the work is still getting done if it's not getting done by them specifically,
Yeah.
It's a team. It's got to be a team approach. Just because you're gone doesn't mean the work has to halt.
Yeah.
Because to me, if you do that, then it means you didn't do your job. Because you haven't prepared the business to be okay without you.
Yeah. That's how I feel. And they've been cutting back my side of the business a lot. So there's usually not another person on the desk. So if this person's gone, it's just boop. You know what I mean? So it's kind of wild. I, however, have backups. I've already talked to people and I have people as touch bases because I am not an asshole.
Yeah.
So
I want to take a week off. That sounds fun.
Yeah. I recommend it. Harder to do though when you're your own boss.
I know. Well, technically I could take a week off anytime I feel like it, but I wouldn't get paid for it.
Yeah, you wouldn't get paid, and I think you would come back so stressed.
Yeah.
One last thing before I ask you about your weekend. I have a cool little 3D printed Spinosaurus, which so I partnered up with a.
You might want to lift that a little bit higher into frame. There we go.
Yeah, well, I started immediately got distracted by how floppy he is. I partnered with a company.
One little floppy part came out.
One little floppy.
Look at my. It's what am I looking at? Yeah, it's what am I looking at?
I was I was happy that they sent me a sample so I could see it, but they had to send the ugliest fucking color. What even is this? Well,
they're not going to use their good colors on you now.
I guess, but it's cute. I just wanted to show it off because I like it. Anyway.
So that's 3D printed?
Yeah, it's 3D printed. And it says Grumpysaurus across the spine.
Cute. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
But it is very suggestive.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about my weekend in a bit more detail in just a little bit because I did go to the Young Adult Midwest Conference in Naperville as promised. So we're going to get into a little bit of that. But other than that, I went and saw Fantastic Four twice.
Is it really good?
I really liked it.
Okay.
No, I really, really liked the movie. I went Thursday night, opening night with my friends Greg and Liz. And the thing about Marvel movies at this point is you spend almost the whole first watch with your butt kind of clenched and your shoulders tight. Cause it's is it going to suck? I just want it not to suck. It's almost an easier experience when you go and it's very early on. It's clear that oh, this is going to suck. Well, all right. Captain America, Brave New World, 10 minutes in, you were like, oh, this isn't this isn't going to be good. I was like, so I can just kind of like relax my shoulders and watch the chaos. But the last two, Thunderbolts and now Fantastic Four, like that first watch, it's like, are they going to pull it off? Are they going to pull it off? Are they going to pull it off? And in my opinion, they have in both of these movies.
Nice.
But in particular with Fantastic Four, I was like, I need to see this again now without all that tension in my mind and my body. And John couldn't go with us on Thursday. He's rehearsing for a musical that he's in.
Nice.
But we had some spare time while we were down in Naperville for the conference Saturday night. And I was like, well, do you want to go see it now? Like down here?
Yeah.
I was like, let's do it. And here's the thing about going to see a movie in Naperville, which is a very affluent area.
Okay.
It is less expensive than going to see a movie in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Interesting. That's kind of wild.
The seats were cheaper. And you know how we have like the reclining leather seats? I was like, well, there's no way at this price they're going to be reclining.
Yeah.
They were.
Okay.
And the concessions were cheaper. I was like, Marcus, what are we doing?
Yeah, no shit. Because I think up there, weren't they like $15 a piece?
They're easily? Like 18. If you want to go to the super screen, they're like $18.50 now.
Gross.
For an adult. Yeah. It's quite the investment just to walk in the door and take a seat. And like, again, Naperville, Illinois, so many rich people live there. It is a very high income suburb of Chicago. And it was cheaper to see a movie there.
Do you think they made it cheaper because most people have like nice setups at home, so they're not going to be going to the theater if it's expensive?
I don't know.
It's my guess.
But I expected it to be like a little hokey rundown thing, and like it's like, this is a fantastic movie theater, great concessions, really comfortable seats, beautiful graphics, amazing sound. I was like, why is this $5 cheaper per ticket than a movie in Green Bay?
That's crazy.
And the only thing I could think of is like when I was looking up, and they're called Cineplexes, so I think that's like the company.
The brand? Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is as I looked up like local movie theaters near me, this one was the closest by like a 0.1 mile, but there were like two other ones that were basically the same distance. So it's like, maybe it's just because there's more competition. But
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. The people will so care about this, especially if they don't live in those two areas. But the point is, I saw the movie twice. I really enjoyed it. I thought the storytelling was wonderful. The acting was amazing. I think it's a beautiful movie to look at. I think reviews have mostly been positive, but there have been a few naysayers, and from some surprising sources. Like John and I listened to a podcast and they didn't really like it. And we're like, wow, we thought you guys of all people would love it. But I don't know. Some people with these two, I think sometimes people are just too close to the material.
Oh, gotcha. Are they like super comic book people or something?
Yeah. Like they have a whole podcast about like comic book nerdy stuff. And it's like, I think sometimes with these properties, these IP, it's like sometimes you can be too close to it and you can have too many expectations or predictions about what's going to happen in the movie that you can actually make yourself disappointed based on nothing other than your own hopes or thoughts about what the movie will be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that tracks. I mean, I get that way too about certain IPs, so I get it.
So, all right. So that's really all I did with my weekend was travel and go see a movie. So
nice.
Yeah. So just a reminder for folks, we are wrapping up the Animorphs television show reactions over in Patreon. Go check that out while you can. And that's all we're going to say for right now about that. And news to come.
Yeah, I was about to say, ooh, what does that mean?
Ooh, yeah, we're teasing some things. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. That can be our episode topic next week. Filling people in on some of the things we've been talking about and planning. So I went to YA Midwest. It was my second year going. This time was my first year as a narrator, like as an invited narrator. Last year I just went because I had friends there. And I was there as an attendee. So this year I didn't have to pay and I got a free lunch.
Perfect.
And I got invited to a little like pre-conference mixer the night before at Anderson's bookshop in Naperville, which is, I found out, celebrating its 150th year in business.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah, this incredible legacy in Naperville of this independent bookstore. And I got to meet Becky Albertalli.
Yay! That's exciting. Did
So
you get to
if you
just
don't
fan
know,
out for a little bit?
So I did. For those who don't know, Becky is the author of Simon versus the Homo sapien Agenda, which got turned into the movie Love, Simon, and then I think like there was a TV show, Love, Victor, I think it was. So like this is her IP. She wrote it, and as well as many other books about queer teens.
Yeah.
And so I've been a fan of this book and this person for a long time. And we've been like tangentially connected through other people. Cause like I've worked for authors who are friends with her, but I've never worked for her. And so I did finally, like, it was the first encounter was very much me being like, I'm a big fan of yours. Just kind of like spewing praise at her and like being, you know, a fan, which she took in stride and was interested about like, who I was, and my friend Lindsay was with me, and we were both like, we're audiobook narrators, and she was interested.
Awesome.
But like later in the evening, I noticed that she was kind of like off on her own, and I was also not talking to anybody, so I just kind of like wandered over and was like, really did like the like, I just wanted to check in and be like, hope you're enjoying the party. I really and like explain why it was so important, like to me specifically, that she wrote that book, because beyond the book itself, like the narration of the book, Michael Crouch is the narrator. We've talked about him on this podcast before. He's a wonderful human being, a great narrator, openly queer, and like sounds kind of like me.
Yeah.
And so it was the first audiobook I listened to where it was like, oh, somebody who sounds like me. Like it isn't like, you know, a real dude's dude, you know,
deep gravelly voice,
grumbling voice telling the story. You know, it was just like a guy who sounds like me being an audiobook narrator. And I was like, oh, this is a possibility. And it opened, you know, it's one of the things that made me think like, oh, I can do this. So that was just kind of my, like, I really, like, now that I have you one-on-one, if I can just tell you why your work was important to me. And that opened up a whole conversation about so many things. Like we talked for like a half an hour, and
that's awesome.
It was really lovely. And I always like being able to report to people when folks that I admire or they might admire are also really nice people. Because I think it matters, you know, like just because somebody's found success doesn't automatically mean they turn into a giant a-hole.
Right. Well, and I always hold out hope that they're nice. Like in my brain, I default everyone as wonderful and pleasant unless proven otherwise. So I love being correct. You know what I mean? Like I assume she was great. So I'm so happy that she was such a delight.
Yeah, she was. So then the conference happened on Saturday, and we started with a keynote. And the keynote author was Samira Ahmed, who has written a lot of different books, but is perhaps most well known for being the person to write the latest iteration of the Ms. Marvel comics.
Oh, nice.
Like the one that the TV show is based on. So like her run.
Now that you say that and her name, I think I follow her on Threads and used to follow her on X, but definitely on Threads now, or Blue Sky, one of those. Okay.
Yeah, so she has a new book coming out, and it's a book about like a young girl traveling the multiverse, and it sounded really interesting.
That's cool.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear that much about it because the person interviewing her was Don Martin, who is also an author, but he's also like an internet personality and influencer on TikTok. And he kind of talked about himself a lot and interrupted her a lot. And then they're both members of this club organization, I don't know what to call it, Authors Against Book Banning. And they went into like a 25-minute conversation about book banning and the mechanics of it and why it's insidious, and, you know, the fact that like most book bans are happening because of a handful of people. And that most book bans end up being reversed upon review, and that most of the people banning books don't actually read the books. They're just looking at lists provided online from other people, and then submit like hundreds of pages to their local library of things that have to be taken off the shelves. Which is like, okay, like if there's somebody here who doesn't know that, great. But we're all attendees at a book conference. We're choosing to spend our Saturday with a bunch of authors.
Yeah. So
it felt a little bit like we were preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. I was going to say.
There were definitely perhaps places, settings where that conversation could have done more good. And I would have liked to have heard more about Samira's writing and work, and especially this new book. Yeah. And because I was not an attendee this year, I did not pay to get in. I didn't get a free book, so I had to go buy the book. So I do have the book, and I'm going to read it, and I'm excited about it. But mostly I was just like, can we talk about Ms. Marvel? Or like some of her other work? Like, she's written a ton of stuff. Like, come on.
Dang.
But
yeah, that's a missed opportunity. And
it was, sadly. So, and then following the keynote, which was very well attended, it seemed like everybody came for that. We broke up into like 4 time slots where like a bunch of different panels were happening at a time. And there were 2 narrator panels in the first 2 slots. One was just about like, how do you get into narration? The second one was about building a character. I moderated the second one. And then I attended the third session because my friend Lindsay was on a panel about AI in publishing.
Okay.
And the weird thing was, all of the rooms I was in, very sparsely attended. Like, I think the second one where we talked about building a character was the most highly attended one I saw, and it was like 20 people.
Weird.
And so, yeah, I'm at this point now where I'm wondering, like, is that because there were too many sessions happening at once? Like that everybody spread out and that meant there wasn't much. But also last year at the narrator panel, I went and I attended and the room was full.
I was going to say, unless I'm misremembering, I thought the ones at Queers and Quills were pretty packed. Like people were trying to figure out how they were going to go to all the ones they wanted to go to. I mean, they had them in great windows and stuff, so it wasn't like people were frustrated, but it seemed like they were excited to go. So I don't know. Maybe it was either they were just too close together, or maybe the subject matter wasn't just landing with people, but it seemed like that. I mean, those are stuff I would go do or like attend. It sounds interesting.
And I guess to me, it does make me beg the question, like, is this still what attendees at a book conference want? Like, do they want all of these different options for panels, or do they want like 1 or 2 options and then like a third activity that they could go and do if they're not interested in seeing one of those panels?
Maybe. You have to be careful with the activities though, because I've definitely tried to do activities and that was the thing that sent everyone out of the room. So I don't know. It's tricky.
Oh, I just mean like having a quiet place where somebody could read.
Oh, there, yeah, love that.
You know, like not at like a party or like a game show or something, but like just a place where you can land if you don't, if you aren't interested in one of those 2 panels. Because clearly, and I talked to other people too about their panels, and they kind of had the same report. Like, not many people were coming to these panels, especially in comparison to last year, where it just seemed fuller. So.
If it was the YA conference, do you think maybe were a lot of the attendees younger? Maybe they were just shy about going?
No, most of them were still adults. Okay. And most of the teens who were there with adults.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting phenomenon to see, like, from last year to this year. Like, we really dropped in interest, and like, again, I know the bodies were there. Yeah. Because I saw them all in the auditorium in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, where did everybody go? Did they show up for the keynote and then just like bounce for a few hours and then come back for the signing?
Possibly. Yeah, maybe they went sightseeing.
Saw some sights.
Saw some sights.
Seen some sights. So yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. So that was my experience at YA Midwest. So we'll see what happens next year.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it was fun. Like, overall,
it was
10 out of 10.
It was great to meet people and my friends who were narrators who were there, and now my new friends who are narrators. It was nice to connect with them. So
awesome.
Overall, a positive experience. So yeah. Sweet. Are there any conferences that you're already planning for next year?
No. I mean, I know that Queers and Quills, I put in my interest form for 2027, but that's later. I actually found out
that's 2027.
That's 2027.
That's 2027.
So in the future, I found out that there is a local book con that happens in my neck of the woods. So I think it happens in October. So I'm going to go check it out. I'm not attending this year because I just didn't have the spoons for it. But if it's cool and it seems like it's diverse and has space for me, then I'll maybe try to attend that next year. But otherwise, I don't know. I actually need to see if there's anything else in my neck of the woods that's maybe more queer or romance focused that I can attend. Yeah. If anybody knows of any,
who knows,
around Arkansas, that's cool. Yeah. Let me know for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So we're talking about something weird today.
Okay. Love it.
Because it's been so on my mind. So you need a little bit of backstory, listeners. John and I traveled to Minnesota a couple weeks ago. We went to and from Naperville this weekend. So we got a book for like our road tripping on Audible. And we picked a memoir by a very rich and famous Broadway theater producer. His name is Jeffrey Seller. I don't expect anybody who listens to this podcast to know who that is or to have read the book. I'm not saying this is content for you. And in fact, if you want to read the book, I would say skip the audiobook because he reads it and he is not a good narrator.
Oh, boo. That's too bad.
He is not a good actor. So skip the audiobook if you want to read the book, and also skip to part 3 where he actually talks about theater, because we spent like the entire trip to Minnesota learning about his life as a kid, including his adolescence, where he talked about his sexual awakening and his burgeoning sex life as a gay man and discovering masturbation. And he talked in detail about like there was a blanket that his grandma gave him that was like kind of silky, and so he would hump the blanket to masturbate.
Wow, I know a lot about this guy and his tastes.
Right. And then like as he grows, it's like his first, relationship and the mechanics of their sex. And then once they break up, he starts hooking up and, first penetration and the thing about all of this is he did go through, like he was a young gay man in New York City during the 80s. And he does touch on the AIDS crisis and being fearful of catching AIDS. Mm-hmm. So he does talk about that.
Yeah.
But mostly I left this book being like, sir, I picked up this memoir to learn about someone who produces Broadway shows. And here I am learning about your first time masturbating.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and then how you proceeded to do it for your teens. And then, your sexual experiences and what you liked and your threesome in a sauna when you were in your 20s. And it's
good for you.
Right? And good for you.
Yeah.
Happy for you, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
I'm not holding it against you.
Yeah, Godspeed, man.
But what it brought up for me is like this idea of, is this an example of really refreshing transparency? Mm-hmm. Is it somebody who's saying, a big F you to all of the puritanical values that live inside us because he wants to have a frank and no holds barred conversation about queer sex? Mm-hmm. And he's not ashamed of it, and he's going to talk about it, and he's going to talk about having a human body, and that's that.
Yeah.
Or is it just strange to have this content in a book about a theater producer? And I don't know where I land because I consider myself a very sex positive person. We talk about sex on this podcast all the time.
For sure.
Yeah. But at the same time, if I were writing a book of my life, no part of my brain would think, you know what I should include?
Yeah. Yeah. Those things. Exactly.
Those details about my life. Because I imagine that someone who's listening to an audiobook or reading a book about my life would want to hear about my career, my work, how I, like my upbringing in the theater that brought me to my work later in life. I'm not saying don't talk about your childhood.
Sure.
But like it should all connect to the ultimate thing that you're known for and why somebody would pick up this book in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you haven't read the book, but you've now been told some of the things I learned about him. What's your take?
I mean, I feel like it is tricky when it's a recount of somebody's life. They're telling you about themselves and what they think is important for you to know. But yeah, I think it would just be, I guess I would also be blindsided if the person wasn't known for that facet of their life. Like if I was reading about a well-known burlesque show person or something, I'd be like, yeah, they probably have some crazy experiences, or maybe this is what led them to that thing or whatever. But if it's just they're known for, I don't know, a puppet show or something, and then they're like, let me tell you about my weird thing with towels, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Right. So I think it's probably a blend of us, being American and raised within a very censored culture and things like that, and just not being used to being blindsided with somebody being that open. I probably would also have been uncomfortable because as we both like romance a lot, I kind of choose what I want to experience, that kind of stuff. It's not something I expect to be surprised by, because I'm like, I'll like if I go see a movie and there's like a really long sex scene in it or something, I'm usually like, is there a reason this is so long? You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for with that kind of stuff being in the media I like, even if it's not a romance-focused thing, if it's, or whatever. But I feel like there is a limit, and you push the boundaries of comfort and your audience's expectations of stuff if you just kind of like, I don't know, come out of left field with a silk bedsheet story. You know what I mean? Right? I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at.
And to be clear about a couple of things. One, I'm like 95% done with the book now, and I still don't like, there hasn't been some tie-in to these early sexual experiences that's important in some way. Also, the book is called Theater Kid, and the subtitle is A Broadway Memoir.
Okay, so nothing tells you.
I'm looking at the blurb, and it talks about like, he's just a kid coming to terms with his adoption, trying to understand his sexuality, and determined to escape his dysfunctional household in a poor neighborhood just outside Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
A young queer kid figuring out who he is and who he likes.
Sure.
Under the details of how you masturbated as a kid, as a teenager.
Right. Yeah, I feel like you probably could have trimmed some of that out. Like maybe your first experience, or the first time you realized like you had attraction for somebody, like that you were queer. But yeah, we don't need to know
like
about
that blurb. Does not make me think like we're going to have some pretty explicit discussions about how he got off.
Yeah, I also would be surprised by that. At what point too, and this might be just me being an ass, but how much of this is just self-indulgent? Like, why are you putting this in there if it's not tying back? Or
girl, let me tell you, the whole book was self-indulgent. The whole thing. It's also not a good book. Like, he clearly thinks his life is very interesting.
Okay, I'm getting a read on who this person is.
There was like so much of the book is about his childhood, and again, it's like all I needed was a little bit of background, and then I needed you to get to the part where you're producing the theater that I'm interested in.
Right.
Like, it is an amazing story of somebody coming from like a low income household in Detroit and like becoming one of the most popular and successful Broadway producers of the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, that like, sounds interesting.
Like, that was a real like story of like how you made it. But like, I didn't need to know about your camping trips with your dad, and all the times your parents almost got divorced, and when you moved, and how the kids at school made you feel bad about where you lived. Like, that's a paragraph.
Yeah, like that's the boring shit that everybody goes through.
That's not 3 chapters that we go over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it really like, and the other thing too is it makes it seem like, oh, woe is me, my life was so hard, and it's like, you were still a white dude. You were still a white family living in Detroit, where I'm sure a lot of other families faced a lot worse.
Yeah, seems maybe a little tone deaf.
And for as much as you may have wanted for more as a child, like, you still went to school, were fed, were clothed, you went to college.
Yeah, you're doing fine, dude.
You were able to move to New York, like. So, and the other thing I want to say too is that like, I've read another memoir by Andrew Rannells, who interestingly actually voiced one of the characters in the audiobook. Oh, did I mention they cast a bunch of Broadway actors to play, like to do all the dialogue in the book? So it was very jarring because all of a sudden it's like some other voice and some other voice. And it's like, and the dialogue is so stilted and awful because it's a memoir and it's not written to be read like a scene. It's written like, this is my memory of the conversation. Oof. Boiled down to its most basic form. Like it's not going to include, all of the nuances of a typical conversation that you would try to write into a scene if you were an author writing a scene, but like it's a memoir. So it was just like, I can't stand you, Doug. And Doug responds with, well, I can't stand you either. Well, then what are we doing? And it was just so bad.
Wow.
But anyways, Andrew Rannells, brilliant writer, great narrator, has 2 books of essays out. And in one of his, he talks about growing up and when he was groomed by an older gentleman in his theater group.
Ooh.
And ultimately, like, sexually assaulted because he wasn't, even though he was going along with it, like he was too young to consent.
Yeah.
And like, so he includes that story and he includes some other stories about like having sex, but they all inform something about his past, his past trauma, how he thinks about relationships with other people because of how things worked out with these particular people.
Yeah.
Like there's one story that seems kind of seedy because he hooks up with a married guy and then like the married guy is really like religious and he like confesses it to his wife and the wife comes and confronts Andrew about it. And then he's like, this was way more than I wanted. Like it was just a hookup. Yeah. And like for a little bit, you're like, oh, it's kind of a random trashy story to include in your memoir. He ends up dating the guy years later, for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. So the story of how you met, even though it's kind of seedy, has a purpose. And I guess this whole book that I'm listening to now, I keep waiting for these things we learned about to make sense. Like, what was the purpose of learning about all of that?
Yeah.
Because I just don't think if you're a public figure, we need to know that much detail about your sex life. Or maybe we do. I don't know. I think maybe I'm being a prude. I'm 40 now. I find myself more and more lately being like the grumpy old man and thinking like, do we really need to be going this far or doing all this? Maybe it's refreshing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, because I also don't have the same fixation and curiosity about celebrities that I think a lot of people do. Like they're really obsessed about who's dating who and their baby names and all this shit. I've never cared about that. I don't care. They're just people. I don't want to see any of them vulnerable like that. Like I like seeing them in movies, but like I wouldn't go seek out nude pictures of them or anything wild like that. But people do like that kind of transparency. They feel like they're close to those people, or maybe it is, they can glean something that they can relate to or connect to in some way when it comes to things like that. But I don't know. That's just not how I am able to connect to celebrities. Like somebody's sexual habits doesn't make me feel closer to them in any way. So I don't care about it, but maybe it does for other people. So
maybe, I don't know. And I think too about like when I was younger, like in my very early 20s, not that I was having sex, because I was still being a youth minister and celibate. But like I knew a lot about my friends' sex lives as it was happening in the moment. Now, they weren't describing the shape of things or like it was not as detailed as some of the scenes in this book, but I knew what was happening and with whom.
I will tell
and it was all in real time.
Yeah. I have
that was normal.
Yeah, I have definitely been in conversations hanging out with, it's usually other women. They will just start telling you shit. Oh my God. So it has happened a few times. The people who I'm very close with, we don't discuss that kind of stuff. And those are the people I'm a little bit more connected with. But I will know somebody for like a heartbeat and they start laying out a lot of details about shit. And it's unprompted. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've been in more than one scenario where I'm hanging out with a gaggle of females. We get a whiff of wine, and then I start learning about shit. People are real just open about things. And I'm always like weirdly sitting there not sharing because I am not open about any of that stuff. Like, that is super private. So everyone's telling me about people's preferences, we'll say. And it's deeply uncomfortable. I hate it. But it's, it's a bonding thing. That's just, everybody sits around and talks about it, talks through stuff. This is also how people ask questions in a safe environment. You've got your group that you can be like, hey, this is the thing, or like, has anybody tried this? And there's usually at least one bitch. It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? So it's, I get it. I get the allure. It's just, I don't know, circling back to just being maybe not as sex positive or a little bit prudish than we thought, even though we're entrenched in romance, which is very funny. Personal stuff. I can't, dude. I cannot. It's just not something I like to share.
Yeah. Well, and I guess too, I just want to acknowledge the fact that, like, growing up gay, a sentiment I heard over and over and over again was, what you do in the privacy of your bedroom is like, I just don't want to know about it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, has that been so ingrained in me that now I feel like that's the standard for everybody? I just don't want to know about it. When, like you said, like, there are sometimes these conversations can be really helpful for somebody who doesn't understand or is just learning about it, or maybe in a situation where they're being taken advantage of in some way that they don't even understand. And so like, open, positive, healthy communication about your sex life can be a wonderful thing. Yeah. And it certainly was something that my friend group had no problem talking about in our 20s. We don't talk like that anymore.
Oh, God, no.
And certainly with friends who I've made later in life, like, we don't have those conversations.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But a part of me is like, maybe we should. Maybe,
I think it just depends.
Maybe we should.
On the person. Yeah, I think it depends on your comfort level with that person. And I think for me, if I broach that conversation, it's probably because I do have a genuine question about something, or maybe I need a sounding board. It wouldn't be for, I don't know, for shiggles or like a titillation thing or something like that, or just spilling the tea or whatever. For me, it would have to serve a purpose. Like, if somebody asked me a question about something, I would need to know it was because they needed insight or advice. But if they were just like, tell me about this, I'd be like, no, that's none of your business. Even if it was, I mean,
well, certainly everyone should have the chance to say, no, I don't want to say this about that.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about, like, like, maybe I need to take a chill pill about this guy who wrote a book where he talked about these things, because maybe it'll be very helpful to somebody.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, there's that too.
Like, where else do you learn about the mechanics of sex? Porn?
We've talked about that before. Like, a lot of people use this as how they inform themselves. So, and it could be healthier than sort of other avenues.
Yeah, that's sort of the last thing I want to talk about, which is like, do we think our unhealthy relationship to sex is part of why romance is so popular? Is this like the safe place where someone can fantasize and think about, and, even they can't be in conversation with the characters, but they can at least learn from or experience through the characters something they haven't experienced in real life? Is it the learning ground for all the smutty little fantasies that have nowhere else to go because we don't trust each other with them?
I think 100%.
We fear being judged.
Yeah, no, I 100% think so, because definitely, I mean, we've talked about this constantly on this podcast and just people's journeys as authors to begin with. A lot of us learning about who we are is from reading these romances, being like, oh, this is a normal feeling, or this is something that isn't as taboo as I thought, or whatever. Like, I'm not big on like kink romances, but I understand more about the community and people because of that than I ever would have if I just never even picked up one of the books and just gave it a shot. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's incredibly powerful and informative and wonderful. And I think that's exactly it, is that it's probably harder for us to go to somebody and be like, tell me about spanking. I don't understand what this is. Or you could just pick up a book, and if it's well written and well researched, and a lot of caveats go into this, especially in the queer space, especially when you have not queer men writing it and things like that, you can understand a lot more and have that introspective understanding.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what was on my mind, reading this book about a Broadway theater producer. And I now know so much about him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the silver lining is that it gave us a lot of good conversations for the podcast. So even though we both know about his love for silk sheets and shit, we at least got some good conversation out of it. So
yeah. And again, if you do love Broadway and want to find out about his work bringing shows out of obscurity and making them very popular, skip to like 2/3 of the way through his book. Just read Act 3 and Act 4.
Nice.
He has his book split up into acts, and it's like Act 1 and 2.
Of course he does.
You don't need to know. Act 3, that's when the good stuff starts. That's when the theater stuff starts. Go there.
Excellent.
So yeah, but that's it for us this week. Thank you for listening, guys. If you want to follow us, I think the most important place you can follow us right now is over on Patreon. We do have a free subscriber level, and that is where we will be notifying people about some upcoming changes, some pending things that are going to be happening. It's how we're going to be able to get in touch with you. So please go sign up over there, or you can follow us on Instagram. In both places, just go to the site and search Hoof and Fang, and we should pop up for you. So make sure you're connected to us. Make sure we're able to get in touch with you so that we can tell you about things as they progress in the near future.
Indeed.
And we'll leave it at that. So everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week.
See you then.